again why we've been promoting for years the people to start study classes in the different territories at North America, particularly, and activating the pre-existing courts of diversity that are lawfully constructed around the world. That is your consular venues to get the people into the practice and exercising of intelligent jurisprudence operations to issue from your own political venues lawfully with established law, etc., your instrumentalities to any persons, groups of persons, or anyone representing any agency claiming jurisdiction on the lives and the bodies of the people. That would include the International Monetary Fund, United States corporation operatives, the IRS, the United Nations, or any other entity which are really octopus arms of the bankrupt United States corporation company that many of its agents are still operating at North America in violation of both Constitution, violation of treaty, and violation of international law, still doing human trafficking and extorting from the people, knowing that many people don't know that they are indeed human traffickers and are actually a criminal enterprise with all of its operators, and that include all the governors, etc., who have been pretending to be officers or under constitutional operations when actually they are operatives under defunct, de facto, expired, and bankrupt United States corporation company, and still operating their pledges to the popes of Rome under the secret Treaty of Verona against a unknowing, unsuspecting, and uninformed general public. That's a fact.
All right, other comments. Okay, what is reversion of the estate, and how do we?
Version of estate is basically when you rebut any claims made by the de facto operators who have been claiming to be quote unquote the government or your government, both of which are false statements and lies. However, it is important that you, your family members, your friends start studying and becoming competent and being in harmony with established law, etc., yourselves, and start taking control of your estate. So reversion of estate in its nature is really you claiming the birthright or claiming your right of estate. And as an example, many of you over the years, for the last 25 or 30 years, and some of you listening aren't even that old, but we've been teaching this to people for quite some time. This is what you would call a reversioner's statement in its nature. This would be the nature of a reversion of estate. As an example, if you did a writ, writ just means writing, and you would say, what is your appellation? So you would say, I, and place your appellation, the living sentient man or woman and rightful heir, am not lost at sea. And I affirm and I declare my right of quote unquote reversion of estate. And therefore I make no claim with respect to the title and misrepresented name or man of straw and nom de guerre being a title, which is and which consists of the all caps instruments that are presented on bills, instruments, debts, etc., licenses, marriage licenses, all the other instrumentalities. I reject them, and the spurious, and they are the spurious creations of the foreign de facto United States corporate operatives, actors, and owners, and I surrender and assign any and all reversionary interest to the foreign United States and to its subsidiaries for full, quote unquote, acquittance, discharge, settlement, and closure, quote unquote, of my reliance on Title 12, United States Code, subcategory of subtitle 95A, Part 2. And I assume no liabilities, and I assume no debts, however contrived, among its associates, and I do not consent to, nor do I stand as surety, quote unquote, for the foreign, private, and for-profit United States Incorporated, U.S. corporation company entity owners, its directors, or their administrators or administrative clerks, nor do I stand as surety for its subsidiaries or its associates at any point or any moment in time. That would be a reversioner estate statement in general. And that would cover all false taxation, all claims of over your body, all the Christian or black codes operative where they've been claiming people's children under state wardship, which is really for their human trafficking, which has been going on for quite some time, etc. So in a public record, if you make public response, the most important thing to be cognizant of in relation to reversion of estate and right of estate is that it must be proclaimed publicly. That's the major issue.
And where would one file that?
You don't need to file it. You need to see the file. This is the point. People's concepts, and I comprehend that because you're used to filing things thinking that they're legitimate. You give them what you would call notice, lawful notice. So it wouldn't be a file. That the filing would be, that's how you respond to them. And you keep a record and you make it public. That's the only.
So when they make a claim against you,
because that's what they're doing. They're making claims of a debt that is theirs, converting it to you. And then they're operating that if you don't respond or rebut that you've abandoned your estate, then they use their de facto human trafficking venues that are not Article 3 courts, but they've been telling people they're courts, and they've been actually using them to enforce false claims on people because they're making claims against your estate. Remember, when they send you any instrument that says you owe them anything, that's a claim against estate. You must make a counterclaim by rebutting their claim. You might look at like if as far as say for instance, if you're talking about proper venue, right, by which a claim should be heard, then that would be what is known as a mandamus, right? If you're rebutting their claim of authority over yourself or your estate, that would be a quo warranto. Also, it would be an averment of jurisdiction. So put these three things on your venue for study. An averment of jurisdiction, one. A mandamus, that would be relative to the venue, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, a quo warranto. And that would be a writ commanding them produce by what authority they're operating. And of course, they cannot produce it because they are really impersonating. So they will never properly answer it, which would show you that they actually never had jurisdiction. This is again why many people among you who you've been thinking wanting to help you, except claiming to be conscious, etc., will try to get in your pockets, etc., rather than tell you the truth that these people are really human traffickers, that they're defunct, and that the fundamentals with all our people, we should learn to rebut the claims of Rome. And the more your people do it, they'll not be able to sell the bonds on the stock market, which is really what they've been monetizing by our people not making their right of claim or nationalizing, and therefore assume that they've abandoned their estate and they've been building more instruments on that and sending them to Seed and Company, 55 Water Street, and backing their debt as security. They're private debt, pretending to be government. The problems that they're having as the nations of the earth have been rejecting U.S. Treasury bonds, and that's why you have this trade problems now and all this stuff that's going on. Know that that is in fact directly tied to this conversation. Directly.
Okay, here's another comment. I can't pronounce her. But anyway, marriage is a contract with the state. My mate and I tried to change our names before we knew it wasn't necessary, and was told we would have to remarry in order for him to take my L that I had.
All right, now you're talking about in personam jurisdiction. You write them a rebuttal. And this is I did a short book for people to study. It's called Nomen Substantivum. And that's to let you know that your right of claim of a name correction or change is a divine right and supersedes any claim made by the state. They didn't tell you that part though, did they? We'll talk about that later. That's a fact. That's law.
And because there's an instance in the Bible where I forget his name, but he changed his name because his name meant pain, and he was causing pain, and he just changed his name to something that had a different meaning.
Yeah.
So if you go to that scripture,
casting spell.
That's right. All right.
And see, even the question indicates the assumption that they have jurisdiction. You see where the psychology is? See, the deal of it is when you apply to them, you're giving them jurisdiction over your estate. They have none lawfully. However, under forfeitureship, or what you call trust law, when you assign to them, it's actually they're dealing with your estate by you just assigning them verbally to your estate by trust. That's why they don't teach trust law or trust principles, all of which our subject matter is tonight. You got to, you know how they say Satan has no power except what you give him? Translated into common civic order, the corporate state and the Roman Curia members have no jurisdiction except you keep applying to them and assuming that they have jurisdiction. Then they assume it. And then when they do, you always lose.
Okay. So, Atiti Asha says, how do you get out of rapid antigen testing from work? What instrument would I need?
You would do a reversion of a statement in the same nature.
With regard to
the deal
testing,
is they're assuming
jurisdiction
in personam jurisdiction. You would do a quo warranto. By what authority are they making their demand? And the instrument would be designed relative to the matter or the subject matter at hand. As an example, if someone says to you, you must take you must drink our maple syrup in order to enter the door, right? A quo warranto would ask them by what authority they're operating so that you can make sure that you're doing right, etc., so that you can protect your rights and reserve your rights. And put it in writing. Don't do a lot of verbal talking. Put it in writing. And always name the person, not the corporation. And watch how quickly they don't put their name to it. Because they already know that as soon as they do, you can sue them. And this is back to the reestablishing of the proper political venues, i.e. the consular venues that have been silenced, particularly since 1954 by Dwight D. Eisenhower via the United States Corporation Company, because they already know that our people not being conscious of the venues of diversity of nationality, that our people would lean naively to the states, courts, etc., which are de facto human trafficking venues. And logically, ever since 1954, what they've been doing with our people, packing the prisons with them. Wrong venue. And you notice in 1954, 55, they put out all of their clergy members running around talking about civil rights since 55. Our people don't see the correlation because they're not thinking. We're getting you to think again. Don't expect us to come save you, or Jesus come save you, or Muhammad to come save you, or Zikrab to come save you, or Musa to come save you, etc., or Buddha to come save you, or Confucius come save you. You're going to save yourselves. And you're going to do it with knowledge. See, like Yeshua said, the anthropomorphic Jesus said, know you the truth, and the truth will set you free or make you free. It's a state of mind. Once you comprehend that these Romans aren't your government, that they're actually human traffickers, and that's the same spirit. When they say Rome, they're really talking about the spirit of the evil ones who murder all the prophets and murder justice. And so when they say they hang Jesus on the cross, they hang justice on the cross. And therefore they disallow justice to be executed among the common people. And thus they are, or take their position that they've been operating for centuries as human traffickers, sometimes commentators refer to as slave traders. That's what's going on. And the marriage certificate is one of their instrumentalities for trade.
So, said the Sambo says, if I want to get married, how would I do so?
If you want to get into matrimony. Now, what you want to do is you and your divine, beautiful mate, in accord with nature, make an obligation contract between you and your family, the same way you would do in ancient Africa before European colonialization. You would ask for the hand of your purported wife to the parents of that wife, show yourself competent, and in honor, basically by tradition, show dowry to show that you're not just coming for what you call a quick date, if you get the point. And then give as you take from the family, you show honor by that means. You make the honor between your family, not the corporate state. The corporate state belongs to the popes of Rome. Why would you ask the enemies of humanity and the enemies of your foreparents who've been lynching you, poisoning you, doing experiments on you? Why would you ask them for permission to do that which is yours by nature, by the divine source or divine creator?
So as Moors, the way to come into matrimony would be
matrimony, not marriage. Marriage is based on the lower vibration, or what you call the war negative principle of Mars. I is the 9th letter of the alphabet, which is the I, or the 9 moons or the 9 months by which the woman or the matriarch brings life to the gates of the physical world, etc. And rage, just what it is. Rage is anger. Therefore, marriage in the nature of the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed operatives is a curse. Go into holy matrimony. Give marriage back to Rome. Go into your union with the proper spirit, in harmony with divine laws of nature, and respect for the matriarchy of life, the giver of life, the bringer of life, the womb of man, just like the honor of your mothers and your fathers, in harmony with nature. Get Rome out your life.
Okay, here's a question. Hi, Taj. Can you explain a bit about a Moorish passport? I am very much interested about changing my nationality to the Moorish one. How can we travel from America, the corporation? I think that means
even what has been going on under European colonial operations, which is why our people have been constricted in the first place. So the beginning of curing the problems that we've had with colonial operations, your right of travel is divine, and not by shipping bottomry instruments, which is what a passport is. For ships. Now, are you a ship, or are you a living sentient being? Thus, this is part of the work collectively that we all must do to reject Rome. Stop trying to capture the straw man. Choke it, so that the instruments that they have created and sold around the world have no value, which is why, because remember, those things are traded as sureties for the United States Corporation Company. It's not your country. It's not the aggregate land. It's the private corporations of members of the crown or the Roman Curia, who has also made an agreement with all the clergy and all the politicians to send to the popes of Rome and to the crown, which includes all bar members and lawyers, 20% of all taxes collected against the Aboriginal people of North America in perpetuity. And lately, they've been doing it even to the hybrid European so-called U.S. citizens since the 30s. 20% of all tax goes to the crown and to the popes of Rome and your clergy in perpetuity by agreement of all these politicians you've been calling your mayors and governors, etc. They're not your members. And you're not members of them. They're Roman Curia members, and they've been doing this to you forever. The more you start rejecting them, they will have no power over you. The major issue why we're trying to get you active, not only at North America, but around the world, is to reject Rome, reject Rome, reject Rome, reject Rome's agents, reject Rome's Curia members, reject the barristers who comprise the crown of the Circle Church and Chancery, and thus you must reject their agents that are sent in your communities to sell you bond